get back to the way things ought to be, where when you play smart and you play well, you stomp a team like Wake Forest. And that's what Florida State does. The win probability throughout the game never dipped below 90.2%, for example. And that was early when it was, I think, 10-7. After that, it was never below 93%. So this was a rocking chair game if there ever was one. Obviously, the differential, for example, in yards, you can pick your stat that you want. All of them apply in the good column for Florida State. 508 yards for Florida State, 210 for Wake. That is some old school domination. That's that stuff that we did to people in the 90s. That's what we did in 2013 to some teams where you're hopeless if you're Wake. You really had no reason to be out there much of this game. You kind of just were hoping to go home. Well, you were home, but I mean, leave the stadium. Leave, get out. Don't want to be a part of this anymore. This is not good. Basically, the only offense Wake had was one long run and a couple of really suspect penalties against Florida State. Other than that, they did nothing. Florida State now sits as an overwhelming favorite to win the ACC, of course. And most of us in this fan base see it as a step along the way towards making the college football playoff and perhaps having an opportunity to win a national title. And to that point, the committee will announce their CFP rating for the first time this year tomorrow night. If I were a one-man committee, Tom, this would be my top 10. I'd have Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, Ohio State, Washington, Oregon, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Ole Miss. Ole Miss's lone loss was to Bama on the road 24-10, so I have to put him in there top 10. That's it. This was a weekend for OU to take it on down the road, which was nice. Others cemented their take it on down the road status, like North Carolina. Just wanted you to be sure. They wanted you to know we do not matter. In case you thought we do not matter at all.
How about 600 yards for Georgia Tech?
Well, 22 points in the fourth quarter will hurt your feelings. I mean, sweet Jesus.
600 yards.
Oh, I'll get to them in a minute. Utah and Oregon State. Thanks for playing. It's been real. Take it on down the road. Sorry, Whittingham. I bet against you. I won. I had to. Didn't think that'd be much of a game. It wasn't. So that's my top 10. But my guess as to what the committee will do looks like this. I think they'll go Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Washington coming in at 5, just behind Florida State. Now, of those teams, if you want to have a larger conversation just for a second, I like our chances against Ohio State. I think we'd beat Ohio State. I don't like our chances against Georgia. I think FSU is a coin toss with Michigan at this point because, and this is important, the Noles would have the services of 6'5", 340-pound Darrell Jackson in the playoff, and that is a big, big deal. You give me Jackson, Farmer, and Fist to go with Verse and Peyton, and we can go to war. I can play some defense now. I can stop the run game and get you out of what you want to do. The problem, of course, is on the other side. Our offensive line wouldn't block those teams. But that's where you need Mike, who can be a magician with these game plans, and Jordan Travis, especially Jordan Travis, the runner, to change the math. And in a one-off, you create enough offense that gets you to the fourth quarter, and you got a chance to win those games. Let's hope we're talking about it. Let's hope we're having that conversation. I got ahead of myself. But, let's hope that that's some sort of scenario that we're talking about. Now, the game itself, for those of you wondering, scrimmage plays, not counting garbage time and special team stuff, 66 scrimmage plays, 29 rush attempts for Florida State. And in that, it kind of encapsulates how weird the team is because they were good and efficient on the ground, but they weren't great. And what I mean by that is you have 29 rush attempts, 16 of those went for 2 yards or less. Just what we do every week. You're just like 20 carries in a game will just go nowhere. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, there's 12 yards. Okay, that was good. And you set something else up. It's just a strange existence on the ground for us right now. I thought the offensive line and pass protection, great. Best they've been. Perhaps this year. Probably the best they've been since the LSU game.
They were outstanding that night.
Yeah, I think that's the best they've played in pass pro since the LSU game is what I would say. And Florida State always finds ways to overcome whatever weaknesses they seem to have, and you can do that when your quarterback is awesome. And by the way, he was awesome as in best game he's played since the second half of LSU. He was fantastic in this football game. Jordan Travis was the best version of Jordan Travis in this game. He's been a real good player all year long, But this was the kind of guy we thought we'd see every week, and it was on display in this game. He did a very, very good job. Obviously, when you think about this game, you got big plays. You always have big plays, none bigger than the boom, get out the way screen to Trey Benson, who is something that you don't want a piece of with that kind of speed. I mean, can you imagine being that poor safety or those poor corners trying to come across the field? It's such a beautifully designed play. Now, I could watch it 15 times, not just because Trey Benson, when at full tilt, is something to behold, but because of the play design with the motion going to the right, then you roll him back around, you peel your lineman to get out there in front, and he's patient, and it's perfect. It's perfect. The screen game has come into play now, and you're watching them really hit on these screens. This is 2 weeks in a row where they're really able to do this, and some of that early in the year was a little off. The timing was a little off, but they've got it now, and it helps negate some of the short yardage rush problems that you have. So it's a lot of fun to watch them incorporate this now and do it so well. That play obviously goes 80 yards, and it was all she wrote at that point. It's and that brings me to another point. Mike Norvell is really in his element. He is so good as a play caller and a play designer. The kind of fun and games they have with setting things up. I love charting. I know you do this because you do the post game, but you chart along with the game, and you can see, like, I put a little star by plays that I know are set up plays where I'll go, oh, I know what they're going to run off of this, or I'll guess it. I'll say, here's what I think, given his affinity for this, this, and this. I'll say, here's what they're going to run off of that the next time they're in this formation. And maybe it's not always right, but it's something close, or it's the second time or the third time. And then all of a sudden you're like, aha, gotcha. And it's beautiful to watch. And he's as good as there is as an offensive play caller. I really, you guys know I wouldn't tell you this if I didn't think it. He's really, really, really good. Florida State averaged 10.32 yards per drop back. Well, that'll hurt your feelings if you're Wake Forest. Sweet Jesus. By comparison, if you want to know, Wake Forest averaged a paltry 3.9 per drop back. Again, that's, as I say, will hurt your feelings. The defense, outside of the one long run, was awesome again. Wake was dominated in every way, which is what we thought would happen. Their third down success rate was 18%. 18%, you don't say, for Wake Forest. Here's the stat of the day. They ran the ball 44 of their 65 scrimmage plays. Wake Forest did. Now, we said they wanted to run the ball. I guess that they would try to run it more than 40 times. That's how they play football at Wake these days. That's how they have to try to play football because they got to shorten the games. So listen to this. They ran the ball 44 of their 65 scrimmage plays. Of those 44 rushes for Wake Forest, 41 of them went for 2 yards or less. That is men playing with children. I mean, that is a bunch of grown-ups like in their costumes, like you see the mascot games, just slapping children all over the field during the exhibition. That's what Wake Forest had happen to them on Saturday, was grown-ups just went and ended the play. Sometimes it was so violent, the refs just decided to throw a flag because it's violent. There's like, I don't know, it just seems unfair. I'm going to throw it. It's just mean. But that's crazy. 41 of the 44 rushes for 2 yards or less. If you take away the one long run, and you can't, and you got to stop having busts like that. We have one every game. But if you take away that run, holy moly. Now we're talking about you run the ball 43 times for no yards. That's a lot of times to attempt to run and get no yards.